Welcome to the latest episode of the Financial Frontier. I'm your host, Patrick Camuso. So I'm excited for today's episode. This is going to be a solo episode today, but it is a very special episode. So if you've been following the headlines recently when it comes to crypto taxes and accounting, you may have seen the recent Forbes feature highlighting the work that we're doing at Camuso CPA to lead the charge on crypto accounting and digital asset tax compliance. And what I want to do today is walk you behind the real story behind this article, why this matters for our entire industry, and how we're building the systems and strategies that founders and investors need as the regulatory environment ramps up here at Camuso CPA. So there's also some other things I want to discuss and preview in addition to this that we're going to cover. Just about some of the things that I'm going to be doing here in the future when it comes to speaking events and some articles coming out and even some future podcast guests. So there's a lot I want to cover here. I do want to get started with the article. So let me try to share my screen here. So give me 1 second. I'm just sharing my screen. So we do this podcast. We broadcast it on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube via video, and then the audio is also posted on Spotify and SoundCloud. So trying to meet you wherever you're at in terms of hearing the article. So this is the article in Forbes, and the headline leading the charge in crypto accounting. And really the first couple sentences here really says it all. Crypto is no longer a fringe experiment. It's foundational to finance, commerce, and digital infrastructure. We're seeing platforms onboarding stable coins, and blockchains are going to start to power global commerce. And one of the issues going forward is that the back office and the regulatory environment is still catching up. And in addition to that, as you'll see here in the article, I go on to basically go over that. In addition to that, what we're also seeing is enforcement accelerating. Whether it's, we're seeing dozens of notices every week at Camuso CPA, and nationwide, I would estimate thousands are going out. And, there's some high profile indictments that we've been covering here on the Financial Frontier, and that you've probably been seeing in headlines in other places as well. Richard Algren, Waylon Wilcox, these are the big indictments that we're seeing that are, pure tax evasion cases. And there's probably going to be more of those to come. So, this is really why this Forbes piece matters, not because of the recognition for me or for Camuso CPA, but because it signals to the market that crypto native, compliance forward advisory is now a central pillar of the digital economy, and it's essential for both investors and founders that want to operate and build wealth that is going to sustain itself over the long term. And that's what I recognized early, and that's what I built Camuso CPA to really be the piece of that puzzle that fulfills this need. I've been building over the past, and that's what Forbes has recognized here. So the article goes on, it just starts to go and gets into sort of, the background story in the early days of crypto. Back in 2016, it was not like it is now. No one really wanted to touch crypto. And, I had to sort of take a chance and, step in early, and had the vision of blockchain really becoming a pillar of global trade, just like other forms of accounting underpinned other, iterations of the global economy, and made the bet. And, really right from the start with that first client, I started to realize that crypto innovation and all of these transactions happening on chain were outpacing the traditional tax and accounting regulatory environment and systems and tools that were available. And to a certain degree, that's still the case here today. And that is what we're working on a daily basis, whether it's on the accounting side, with developing accounting methods that are ensuring accuracy for on-chain transactions for Web3 companies, for investors, as well as tax planning and tax compliance, and helping investors and founders and platforms navigate the new developments on the regulatory side, whether we're talking about Revenue Procedure 2024-28, the upcoming 1099 DAs, sales tax requirements when it relates to real world assets, NFTs, and marketplaces that are on chain. So, these are all novel issues that founders and investors need to address now, but there is usually a lag in terms of the crypto innovation and the traditional tax and accounting, as is stated here in this Forbes piece. So then we start to get into, who we're serving and, what we're doing at Camuso CPA. And, it kind of follows a timeline here. So moving into 2017, when we started to see more adoption where, crypto's not mainstream, but founders are raising millions and investors are executing thousands of trades, again, with no accounting systems or tax strategy. So even today, we're still seeing the fallout from this. And that's why I think this is important, because as I stay here, we still have investors coming to us every week at Camuso CPA who haven't done their accounting for crypto and even filing their taxes many times. Sometimes they come facing tax notices. Sometimes they come because, there's something else that prompts them. But we still have to go back to 2017 and get their accounting updated and deal with the tax issues back then. So it just shows, how difficult it was for investors and for founders back then, and how, to a degree, it's still difficult now. And there's still a huge compliance gap, and that compliance gap is going to continue to widen as things become more complex, like we've seen with Revenue Procedure 2024-28 for an example. And now we're going to have the 1099 DAs that are coming out this tax season, and that's going to put, I think, a lot more taxpayers and investors into this category, where they start to realize that these transactions that maybe you've overlooked for years, you're going to have to go and address and properly account for and claim on your taxes. So as I said, the Department of Justice, and then these are just some examples. There's dozens and hundreds of these examples at our firm where we're fixing accounting inaccuracies that are saving clients hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, depending on the client. This is commonplace for us, and it's because of our accounting process, our due diligence process. We're not a firm that is just here, just plugging into a software. We have a proprietary process that does leverage many of the softwares out there, but there's steps that we follow to normalize the data before it goes into these softwares, and for due diligence after we do an initial reconciliation within some of these software platforms to ensure accuracy and make sure that we have data completeness and accuracy when it comes to the categorization and the tax impacts that it's going to have on clients. So like I said, the Department of Justice stepping up criminal enforcement, thousands of tax notices going out. We're covering this separately on the Financial Frontier, so I'm not going to belabor this too much. But this is, like I said, something I think that's going to start to accelerate as the 1099 DAs come out. And I think it's something that a lot of CPA firms, even that aren't crypto native, are going to be facing. They're going to be having tons of clients asking them questions that maybe they weren't asking them before about crypto. And it's going to be become a big issue, I believe, even bigger than it is now. So our process at Camuso CPA follows three main phases. There can be more within this, but it always starts with getting accurate accounting, resolving any tax issues, and then finally focusing on strategic tax planning to actually ensure compliance in the future, and optimization from a tax perspective related to your portfolio or your company. So, half the battle is getting your accounting accurate so you get a clear picture on everything and getting you into compliance. And then from there, you can actually, start being proactive and using the tax structure that's in place to your advantage rather than just always trying to play catch up and always being behind. And an example of that, which we've been working with clients on recently, is our seg FIFO strategy related to revenue procedure and the being proactive about wallet architecture and flow of funds to give clients more control over the timing of their capital gains events related to their portfolio. And really what it takes is planning in advance. So that's really the full life cycle for most clients is, starting with the accounting, resolving any tax issues, and then really trying to help them plan in advance and check in with us on a quarterly basis and make sure that their accounting is staying up to date, their tax strategies are optimized in relation to their current portfolio and the current market. So, outside of investors, our role over the years has evolved to Web3 enterprises. Investors, as I say here, became founders, and the challenges shift to building scalable accounting and tax systems on chain. And, a lot of what we do on this side is very similar to what we're doing on the investor side, but the systems are somewhat different when we're, integrating subledger and general ledgers and designing tax plans around multi-entity structures that usually have international components to them. But ultimately, what the role that we're serving for Web3 companies is an embedded advisory role where we're able to assist you from, end to end when it comes to your accounting system design, implementation, and ongoing management, as well as your tax planning, ongoing tax needs when it comes to compliance, including quarterly taxes and tax return preparation. And, I was early to crypto taxes in general, and I've been early to a lot of the issues that I'm seeing emerge on the fringes when we're starting to move into new phases of the crypto economy. And an example of that is the book I wrote on NFT sales taxes, which is going to impact tons of companies, whether these are NFT marketplaces or companies that are going to be tokenizing different types of assets on chain. So, these types of accounting systems that we design here have to be scalable, when we're designing them for funds or for payment companies or for, high volume transactions. And they have to be extremely robust when we're designing them for multi-entity structures that usually have international components to them. So then this part really excites me here. And it's kind of like, the next iteration of what we're going to be doing and, parts of the industry that we're going to be serving as we start to see crypto and blockchain continue to proliferate. And, as I stay here, the demand isn't just isolated to crypto native founders. We have corporations adopting Bitcoin treasury, SaaS companies launching tokens, e-commerce and fintech platforms accepting stablecoins. And they all need the tax and accounting systems that, we've been working on at Camuso CPA for the better part of the decade. So the needs in the marketplace are going to continue to evolve, and Camuso CPA is well positioned to, continue to serve new types of companies and investors that are transacting on chain. And one example of that is the service that we rolled out, the Crypto Merchant Compliance Service, where we're assisting e-commerce companies and other merchants that are adopting stablecoin rails and adopting crypto payments with end-to-end systems for their accounting system design, their tax planning, and their compliance related to transacting with digital assets to ensure that this transition is smooth and it actually helps them increase their bottom line. And the way we do that is by protecting their bottom line with sound accounting systems, with proactive advisory when it comes to taxes. So, and this just touches on this more. We're continuing to see this industry evolve, and it's going to get more complex, and we're acting in the role that spans across taxes, accounting, finance, and legacy, and really functioning as a trusted advisor both to investors and founders that are transacting on chain. So then, the other big piece of this is the automation and efficiency, both on the accounting and tax side. Now that we're living in the AI age, this has been something that my firm has been working a lot on and integrating into our workflows, both on the accounting side and on the tax planning side. So, our firm is both crypto native and AI enabled, and that really is the future of advisory and accounting. Is that companies are and investors are going to be transacting on chain, and the firms that serve them are going to have to be fluent when it comes to digital assets, and also be able to serve their clients in the highest capacity. And that means leveraging the latest tools, including AI tools that are going to make each and every one of the employees within the firm more efficient and enable them to deliver more value to the client. So that's really, how I see the future of professional services. The next generation of founders and investors need strategic advisors who can safeguard wealth across blockchains, borders, and evolving regulatory landscapes. And that's really what I'm building at Camuso CPA. So, let's see here. We have a lot of stuff coming up here in Q4 at Camuso CPA, and at the financial frontier as well. So, some really great guests that are going to be coming out in the upcoming weeks. We're pre-recording some of these episodes now with former IRS advisors, real world asset protocol operators, policy influencers, and some other builders in the space that are shaping compliance at scale, that are part of organizations processing at least millions of transactions. So there's going to be a lot of interesting conversations and insights that are coming your way through this channel here on the financial frontier. And like I said, we're across a lot of platforms right now. You can find us where you're at on LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube, and also on podcast channels, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Additionally, I'm going to be speaking at the TAB conference to give an update. I spoke there last year in Atlanta. It's going to be in October, I believe October 13th. I believe it's October 13th to the 16th. I'm going to be speaking there on the Bitcoin regulatory environment related to taxes and accounting. So I gave a talk on this last year and basically warned all the builders and developers there about the revenue procedure and the 1099 DA. So I'm going to be giving an update on that, along with some other interesting updates. So I'll be speaking there, and let's see here. We have Camuso CPA has an article coming out that's coming out with Coinly on how to file Form 8949 and basically, file your taxes for this upcoming tax season. So that should be coming out basically any day now. So expect to see that coming here soon. And let's see what else. So yeah, a little bit about what I'm seeing at Camuso CPA. Like I said, we're still seeing tons of investors that are behind on their accounting, tons of people getting tax notices from the IRS, the 6174s, basically stating that they suspect that they're not compliant and urging them to file their taxes. So and another thing I'm seeing a lot on the founder side are founders with international structures where whoever's advising them is and there's different examples of this, but their advisors are basically overlooking their U.S. tax filing requirements related to some of their international entities. Particularly, like if you're a U.S. person and you have a substantial ownership in foreign entities, you need to be speaking with a knowledgeable U.S. advisor about what your U.S. tax exposure may be. And you may have a tax exposure even if you don't take a distribution from a company that is domiciled in another jurisdiction outside of the U.S. So I've been seeing a lot of compliance issues with that lately. In addition to some of just the other compliance issues that I mentioned with the crypto compliance. So you need to get your accounting updated. You need to get into compliance with the revenue procedure as well. And we're working with clients to get them up to date on that. But then also under this new accounting structure, there are tax planning opportunities that we're implementing with Seg FIFO and other opportunities around wallet architecture, flow of funds, and accounting method selection and standing orders and the documentation around that and all these considerations. So, you need to be preparing in advance for all of these considerations and just in general when it comes to your taxes. If you're transacting in digital assets, or if you're a founder and you have a multi-entity structure with international components to it, there's a lot of complexity to that, and you need to be speaking to an advisor that's fluent in it to tell you sometimes things that you don't may not even realize are a priority for you. Tell you the things that you don't even know that you don't know, basically. So whether you need tax strategy, accounting system design, audit readiness, assistance with a tax notice, general advisory, Camuso CPA is the firm leading the charge on crypto accounting and taxes, according to Forbes. And I'd be happy to sit down and discuss how we can help you out with your portfolio or with your company when it comes to your accounting systems and your tax strategy. So that's really what I wanted to hit on today. There's going to be a lot of great interviews again coming out on the financial frontier here shortly, and I'm looking forward to future episodes. So I do hope you